My parents gave my older brother a private jet but told me to take the bus to college. I used to think all families had favorites, that it was normal, that every sibling had a role, that every household worked the same way mine did, that one kid got to be the golden child while the other was the afterthought. It wasn't until I was older, when I started hearing stories from friends, when I saw what real families looked like, that I realized how deep the divide really was in mine, because most kids, no matter their family's wealth, at least got a fair chance. Me? I was given scraps while my brother was handed the world on a silver platter. And the worst part? They didn't even try to hide it. The moment that shattered any last illusion I had about my place in the family came when I was 18, standing in our massive living room, listening to my parents gush over my brother's new private jet. I had heard rumors about it for weeks. My father had let things slip at dinner. My mother had dropped hints about big plans for my brother, but no one had actually told me. No one thought I needed to know. Not until the day it arrived. Not until the family chauffeur rolled down the driveway, announcing that the surprise was here. Not until I walked outside, expecting maybe a new car, maybe some ridiculous business investment, something excessive but at least within the realm of reality. Instead, I was greeted by the sight of a sleek, custom-painted, fully personalized private jet parked on the airstrip behind our estate. My brother, grinning like he had just been crowned royalty, strutted toward it while my parents beamed with pride. "This will make things so much easier for him," my mother gushed. "Now he won't have to waste time with commercial flights." My father nodded approvingly. Every great businessman needs efficiency. I stood there, watching as my brother ran a hand along the side of the jet, as if he had done anything to earn it. Because that was the thing. He hadn't. He hadn't worked for this. He hadn't built anything. He was 24, fresh out of college, and had walked straight into a high-ranking executive position at my father's company, a position that had been created specifically for him. And now he had his own jet to match. I swallowed down the bitter taste in my mouth and forced my voice to stay even. "So, I guess this means I'm getting a car for school?" My mother turned to me with an expression that was so perfectly condescending that it almost made me laugh. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, like I had just asked for something absurd. "You'll be taking the bus, remember?" I blinked. "The bus?" "Well, of course. There's no need for anything extravagant. College is about learning responsibility," she said, as if she hadn't just handed a multi-million-dollar aircraft to my brother, without a second thought. I turned to my father, expecting, hoping, for even a shred of logic. "You really think I should take the bus across the state while my brother is flying around in a private jet?" My father barely glanced at me. "It builds character." Character. That was their excuse. That was the justification. My brother got a personalized Gulfstream, and I got character development. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. "But why does he get—" "You should be grateful," my mother interrupted, her voice sharp now, like I was being difficult. "You have a full scholarship. You don't need anything else." I almost laughed. I had fought for that scholarship. It hadn't been handed to me. Unlike my brother, who had never needed to prove himself, who had never been expected to struggle, to hustle, to earn anything. I looked at my brother, waiting to see if he would at least have the decency to feel awkward about it. But no, he just smirked, like it was funny to him, like I was funny to him. And in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't just favoritism. This wasn't just my parents having a soft spot for their eldest son. This was deliberate. They wanted me to struggle. They wanted me to prove myself in ways my brother never had to. Because to them, I was always going to be lesser. I took the bus to college. I worked 2 jobs to cover my expenses, since my parents, billionaires, refused to give me anything more than a half-hearted pat on the back. Meanwhile, my brother was flying between cities, living in luxury penthouses, and getting business deals handed to him on a gold-plated platter. Every now and then, I would visit home. And every single time it was the same. "You're so independent," my mother would say, as if it were a compliment. "You don't even need us," my father would add, as if it weren't their choice to abandon me. And when I asked why my brother still had their full support, "He just needs more time to find his place," they'd say. "He's different. You're lucky you don't need help." Lucky, that was the word they used. as if struggling alone while my brother had every opportunity handed to him was some kind of blessing. So I stopped asking, stopped hoping, stopped trying to prove that I was worth the same as him. And instead, I worked. I built something. I created a life without them. And by the time I was 30, I had done something they never expected. I had surpassed all of them. The day everything changed was the day my mother called me, voice tight with forced cheerfulness. "We need to talk," she said. I leaned back in my office chair, staring at the city skyline from my corner office, the one I had earned on my own. "Do we?" I asked, smirking. She hesitated. "Your father's company is struggling." I smiled to myself. Ah, there it was. They had spent years acting like I didn't matter. They had pushed me aside, convinced that I would never be as successful as my brother. And now they needed me. Now they were calling me for help. "What do you want?" I asked, feigning boredom. My mother inhaled sharply. "Your brother. He's in trouble. The company." "My brother?" I cut in. "You mean the same brother who had a private jet at 24 but still couldn't manage to run a company without running it into the ground?" Silence. I could almost hear her shame through the phone. She had no excuse. She was speechless. I let the silence stretch. Let them feel the weight of every time they had chosen him over me. Then, finally, I said, "You told me to take the bus." Another pause. And then, I laughed. "I think it's your turn now." And then, I hung up. I could have ignored the call. I could have blocked their number. Let them sit in the consequences of their own choices. Let them finally experience what it felt like to be discarded, to be treated like an afterthought. But that would have been too easy. I wanted to see it. I wanted to hear my mother choke on her own excuses. Wanted to watch my father struggle to maintain his pride. Wanted to look my brother in the eye and let him realize for himself that he was nothing without the handouts. So, I agreed to meet them. I returned to the family estate, the same place where I had once been treated like a second-class citizen, the same place where I had watched my brother be showered with millions of dollars in gifts while I had been told to figure it out. Only now, I wasn't the forgotten child anymore. I was the one with the power, and they knew it. The house looked the same from the outside. Massive, imposing, a monument to my father's wealth and ego. But the moment I stepped inside, I noticed the differences. The marble floors weren't as pristine. The chandeliers weren't as bright. There was a hollow emptiness in the air, as if the house itself had sensed the slow collapse of the people inside it. My mother greeted me first. She forced a smile, but her eyes were nervous, scanning my face for any hint of sympathy. "My darling," she said, voice as fake as ever. "You look so successful." I smirked. "Yeah, turns out, taking the bus really builds character." Her face twitched. Behind her, my father sat in his usual chair, looking older, more tired, less invincible. And then there was my brother, slumped in the corner, arms crossed, glaring at me like a child throwing a tantrum. He already knew why I was here, knew I had something he didn't, knew that this time he wasn't getting bailed out. They didn't waste time with pleasantries, not when they were desperate. My father cleared his throat, shifting uncomfortably in his seat. "Let's get straight to the point." I raised an eyebrow. "By all means." He exhaled, rubbing his temples. "The company isn't doing well." I pretended to be shocked. "Really? That's surprising. I thought my brother was supposed to be some kind of business genius." My brother scowled. "Shut up." "Watch your tone," my father snapped, more out of habit than authority. I chuckled. "Oh, I don't think you get to dictate my tone anymore." My mother quickly interjected, trying to smooth things over. "Sweetheart, we just need a little help." I leaned back. "Define help." She hesitated. "A loan." I almost laughed in their faces. A loan? They had refused to give me even a used car for college, had told me to take the bus while my brother was flying across the country in a private jet. And now they wanted my money? I tilted my head. "How much?" My father's jaw tightened. $5 million. I let out a slow whistle. $5 million? And you're asking me? Silence. My mother cleared her throat. "Well, yes, you're doing so well for yourself and..." "Yeah," I interrupted. Because I didn't have a private jet and unlimited handouts to fall back on. I had to actually work for my success. My father exhaled sharply. We don't need a lecture. I smirked. Oh, I think you do. My brother rolled his eyes. Are you done being dramatic, or are you going to help your family? My patience snapped. I turned to him, my voice deadly calm. Family? He scoffed. Yes, family. You mean the same family that let me struggle while you got everything handed to you? I asked. The same family that made excuses for you while telling me to be grateful for whatever scraps I got? He clenched his jaw. That's not... I leaned forward, voice razor sharp. Tell me, brother, what exactly do you bring to the table? He blinked. What? You heard me. What do you actually do? I continued. Because from where I'm standing, the only thing you've ever done is spend Dad's money and call it business. His face turned red. My father's expression darkened, but he couldn't deny it. Because he knew I was right. My brother had never earned a single cent in his life, and now that the company was falling apart, he had no idea how to survive without a safety net. Meanwhile, I had built something real, something that wasn't dependent on our father's empire. My brother understood the difference. I let the silence drag on, watching them squirm. Then, finally, I sighed, sitting back. Here's what's going to happen. My mother perked up, hopeful. Yes? I smiled, cold, unforgiving. I'm not giving you a cent. Her face fell. My father stiffened. My brother? He looked like he was about to explode. You ungrateful little... I held up a hand. Careful. Wouldn't want to disrespect the only successful person in this room. His nostrils flared. I ignored him, turning back to my parents. Here's what will happen. You're going to let your perfect son figure it out. You're going to let him deal with the real world for once. My father's jaw tightened. You can't just... I can, and I am. I stood, adjusting my watch. I earned my success. I built it without you. And now? You get to experience what it's like to be on your own. My mother whispered, We're family. I smiled, sharp, cold, final. You made it clear a long time ago. I was never part of this family. And then? I walked out of that house. And I never looked back. The company collapsed within a year. My father lost everything. My brother, who had never held a real job, had to sell his jet just to survive. And me? I thrived. The last time I heard from them, my mother left a voicemail begging me to call her back. I deleted it. I thought cutting them off would be the end of it. That once I walked away, once I made it crystal clear that I wasn't going to rescue them, they would finally understand. That they would accept their downfall the same way they had expected me to accept being nothing to them. But I had underestimated something. Desperation. Because when people like my parents, entitled, arrogant, used to power, start losing, they don't just go down quietly, they claw, they fight, they try to drag down everyone around them, convinced they're still too important to fail. And as much as I wanted to walk away completely, I had to admit, watching them self-destruct was just too good to ignore. The first real sign that things were getting bad came from my brother. Not from my father, who was still clinging to the illusion of control. Not from my mother, who was too proud to admit how bad things were. No, it was him, the golden child, the one who had never once been forced to deal with reality, who cracked first. And it started with a text message. Brother, we need to talk. I stared at the words for a full minute before responding. Me, do we? His reply came fast and aggressive. Brother, you think this is funny? I smirked. Me, a little. Yeah. Another pause. Then, brother, you're a selfish piece of shit, you know that? You always have been. Ah. So this was the angle. Not an apology, not even an attempt to pretend he was sorry. Just pure blind anger, because he wasn't getting what he wanted. I took my time typing back. Me, you mean the way you've been selfish your entire life? Or is this a new level of irony you've unlocked? His next message? Brother, you think you're better than us just because you got lucky? I laughed. Me, lucky? I worked for everything I have. You? You were given everything and still managed to fail. Brother, you're a joke. Me, And yet I'm the only one in this family who actually has money now. Weird, huh? That was the last text I got from him. Because he knew. I was right. And there was nothing he could say to change that. I didn't hear from my parents for a while after that. Weeks passed. The rumors started spreading, through the business world, through the elite circles they used to belong to. It was bad. The company was sinking fast. My father was desperately trying to hold on, but investors were pulling out left and right. No one wanted to back a failing empire. No one wanted to tie themselves to a dying name. And my mother? She had gone silent, which meant one of two things. She was either scheming, or she was breaking down completely. Turns out, it was both. Because a few days later I got a call from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, until I saw the voicemail transcript pop up on my screen. It was her. Mom, please, sweetheart, just pick up. Just talk to me. I sighed. Then, against my better judgment, I called her back. She picked up instantly, as if she had been waiting by the phone. Honey, she said, voice shaky. I didn't think you'd call. I leaned back in my chair. You sound surprised. She let out a forced, nervous laugh. Well, you've been ignoring us. I didn't respond, because I knew what was coming next. She took a deep breath. Then, your father and we made some mistakes. So now they were admitting it. Now that they had lost everything. Now that their perfect son had failed them. Now that they had no one left to turn to. Now suddenly they wanted to admit their mistakes. I let the silence stretch. Please, she whispered, we need to fix this. I raised an eyebrow. We? Another hesitation. I could practically hear her calculating her next move. Then finally the truth came out. We need you to come home, she said. We need you to help us. There it was, the real reason for the call. Not because she missed me, not because she regretted how they had treated me, but because they needed me to clean up their mess. I smiled to myself, because they still didn't get it. They still thought I was the same desperate kid they had pushed aside. But I wasn't. Not anymore. I agreed to meet them. Not because I was going to help them, but because I wanted to see it. I wanted to look them in the eye as they begged. I wanted to let them sit in the consequences of their own choices. So I returned to the estate, only this time, it wasn't the grand, untouchable mansion I remembered. The gates were rusting. The lawns weren't perfectly maintained anymore. The cracks were showing. And inside, it was even worse. The house felt empty, lifeless, like a graveyard of bad decisions. My father was tense when I walked in. My mother looked like she had aged 10 years overnight. And my brother? Nowhere to be seen. I didn't sit, didn't pretend to be comfortable. I just stood there watching them squirm. Finally, my father sighed. Look, let's not drag this out, I smirked. By all means. We need money, he admitted, voice tight. A loan. Just enough to keep things stable. I pretended to think. So like the loan I asked for when I needed help getting through college? His jaw tightened. I let out a slow, satisfied sigh. Yeah, I don't think so. My mother gasped softly, her voice breaking. Honey. No, I said firmly. You don't get to call me that. Her eyes filled with tears. We're still your parents. I tilted my head. Are you? Because real parents don't pick favorites. Real parents don't tell their son to take the bus while handing his brother a private jet. I turned to my father. You wanted to teach me about struggle? I smiled. Cold. Ruthless. Final. Now you get to experience it yourself. He stared at me, silent, finally realizing. I wasn't going to save them. They were on their own now, just like they had left me. I turned on my heel, heading for the door. My mother sobbed. My father said nothing. And my brother? He still hadn't shown his face, because he knew. He knew he had lost. The company collapsed completely a few months later. My father lost everything. My mother stopped showing her face at social events. And my brother? Last I heard, he was working for someone else, a low-level job at a company he used to mock. And me? I flourished the moment I walked away. I could have walked away completely and never looked back. In fact, I should have. The moment I left that house, left them sitting in their own ruins, I should have erased them from my mind and let them deal with the mess they created. But some things deserved a proper ending. I had spent years being treated like an afterthought, cast aside while my brother was handed everything, told I should be grateful for whatever scraps they decided to give me. And now they had nothing left. The empire had fallen, the golden child had failed, the parents who once looked down on me, who acted like I was less than, they were powerless. And I was going to make sure they understood exactly why. The final nail in the coffin came 6 months after my last visit. I had heard through old connections that my father's bankruptcy case had been finalized, that the estate was going up for auction, sold off to the highest bidder to repay his debts. It was poetic, really. The mansion I had once been forced to leave, the home that had never truly been mine, soon it would belong to someone else entirely. And as much as I had moved on, as much as I had told myself that I didn't care anymore, I still felt the pull. I needed to see it happen. So on the day of the auction, I arrived early. Not to bid. No, I wouldn't waste a single dollar on that place. I just wanted to watch. And when I walked into that familiar ballroom where my parents used to host their lavish parties, where I had once stood in the background while my brother basked in their endless praise, I saw them. My father sitting at the back, his once imposing posture reduced to a slump. My mother silent beside him, her eyes red-rimmed, her face pale with humiliation. And my brother? He looked small. Because he knew. He knew that if he couldn't have this house, if he couldn't have his easy inherited lifestyle, then he had nothing. He wasn't built for struggle. He wasn't prepared for failure. And now, it was all he had left. I took my seat across the room, made sure they saw me, and gave them the smallest smile. And then, I watched as the auctioneer sealed their fate. With every bid placed, every number called, I saw the life they once knew slip further and further away. Until finally, sold. Just like that, the estate was gone, and so was their last shred of power. After the auction, I lingered outside, sipping my coffee, waiting. I knew they would come, and sure enough, after a few minutes, I heard the slow, hesitant footsteps behind me. I didn't turn around, not at first. I just let them stand there, let them feel the weight of what they had done. Finally, my father spoke. "So, this is what you wanted." His voice was tired, not angry, not furious, just defeated. I turned, raising an eyebrow. "What are you talking about?" He gestured toward the auction house. "You came here to watch us lose everything." I tilted my head. "You lost everything because of your own choices." He exhaled sharply, his jaw tightening, but he didn't argue. He couldn't. My mother, standing beside him, looked at me with silent desperation. "You're doing well," she said softly, like that would fix everything. I smirked. "Yeah, I am." She swallowed hard. "You could help us." There it was, the final plea. Even after everything, they still thought there was a chance, that I would forgive and forget, that I would step in like the loyal child they never cared about and pull them back from the edge of ruin. And if I had been weaker, maybe I would have. But I wasn't. Not anymore. I met my father's gaze, steady and unwavering. "You told me to take the bus." A flicker of shame crossed his face. "I did." "And you thought that was fair?" I asked, my voice sharp. He sighed, running a hand down his face. "At the time, yes. And now?" He hesitated. "Now, I see things differently." I scoffed. "Do you? Or do you just regret it because you have nothing left?" Silence. And then, my brother, who had been seething quietly this whole time, finally snapped. "This is bullshit." He spat. I turned to him, amused. "Oh? Something on your mind?" He took a furious step forward, his face twisted in rage. "You've always been so self-righteous, acting like you're better than us just because you got lucky." I laughed. Actually laughed. "Lucky?" I echoed. "You think I got lucky?" "You did," he hissed. "You got to be independent. You got to prove yourself. You—" I held up a hand, and then I let the truth hit him in the face like a brick. "You had every opportunity I didn't," I said coldly. "You had money, resources, connections, and still, you failed." His jaw clenched. "And now," I continued, Now you have nothing. And you're blaming me for it? His hands curled into fists. You don't get it. No, you don't get it. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. You never had to work for anything, and now you actually have to survive, and you can't handle it. His face turned bright red, but he had nothing left to say, because he knew I was right, and he hated it. I took a deep breath, exhaling slowly. This was it, the moment of closure. I turned back to my parents, watching as my mother fidgeted, as my father kept his gaze on the ground. They were waiting, for mercy, for hope, for a sign that I would save them. But they weren't my problem anymore. So I smiled, and said the words that would haunt them forever. I don't owe you anything. My mother sucked in a sharp breath. My father closed his eyes. And my brother? He stormed off because he couldn't handle the truth. I turned, walking toward my car, feeling lighter than I ever had before. And just before I got in, I glanced back one last time. They were still standing there, still waiting for me to change my mind. But I wouldn't, because they had made their choice years ago. And now, they had to live with it, without me. I got into my car, started the engine, and drove away. And I never looked back. The estate was gone. The company collapsed. My brother, last I heard, was working a mediocre job for someone else, struggling to adapt to a world where his last name no longer meant anything. And my parents? They faded into irrelevance. No more parties, no more status, no more power. Meanwhile, I continued to thrive. My parents forced me to babysit for free. Now they're shocked. I refused to help when they needed me. I spent my childhood raising children that weren't mine. While other kids played outside, while my classmates went to birthday parties, while teenagers got part-time jobs to save for their first cars, I was trapped, shackled by obligation, held hostage by the weight of responsibility that was never meant to be mine. Not once had my parents asked if I wanted to be a babysitter. Not once had they considered how I felt about spending my weekends, my afternoons, my entire adolescence tending to my younger siblings, cousins, and whichever child they didn't want to deal with. It wasn't a request. It was an expectation. Family helps family, my mother would say, waving off my exhaustion as if I was complaining about nothing. You're the oldest. It's your responsibility, my father would add, as if the moment I was born, I had signed a contract agreeing to give up my life for theirs. And when I protested, when I dared to say no, the guilt came swift and heavy. After all we do for you, you can't do this one thing. You're being dramatic. Watching your siblings isn't that hard. What else do you have to do? It's not like you're busy. Busy. That was their favorite word. It didn't matter if I had plans. It didn't matter if I had a test to study for, a rare moment of free time, or simply wanted to be alone. If I wasn't doing something they deemed important, then I had no reason to say no. And even if I was doing something important, it still wasn't enough. Because in their eyes, my life was theirs to control. I don't know if there was one specific moment when I decided I was done, or if it was a slow realization, building over time like pressure in a sealed jar until it finally burst. Maybe it was the night I had to cancel a scholarship interview because my mother conveniently forgot she had plans and left me with my siblings instead. Maybe it was the weekend I missed my best friend's birthday party, after looking forward to it for months, because my father's cousin suddenly needed a babysitter and I was volunteered without my consent. Or maybe it was all the little things. The times I was told, "You'll understand when you're older," as if my exhaustion wasn't real. The way my parents dismissed my frustration with a, "You'll thank us one day," as if I was ungrateful for being forced into unpaid labor. The slow, crushing realization that they didn't see me as my own person. I was a resource, a tool, a free service, and I wanted out. So the moment I turned 18, I left. Not in some dramatic movie-style explosion of rage. Not with slammed doors or screaming matches. No, my exit was quiet, controlled. I went to college, choosing one far enough away that last-minute babysitting demands were no longer an option. I stopped answering their calls every time they needed something. I started saying no. And when they complained, when my mother sighed about how, "You used to be so helpful," when my father muttered about how selfish kids are these days, I didn't argue. I simply let them feel my absence, and for a while, it worked. They had other family members to dump their responsibilities on. My younger siblings grew up. They adjusted, and I thought, naively, that I was free. But entitlement never disappears. It just waits for the moment it needs something more. The first sign of trouble comes in the form of a missed call from my mother, then another, and another. Then my father tries, then my aunt, then my cousin. I ignore them all, because I know what this means. They don't call just to check in. They don't reach out unless they need something. And I am no longer their solution. Or at least, I'm not supposed to be. Eventually, my mother leaves a voicemail. Her voice is strained, thick with poorly concealed panic. "We need to talk. It's important. Please call me back." I stare at my phone for a long time before finally giving in. Not because I want to help, but because I want to know just how badly they've ruined their own lives without me. When I call back, my mother answers on the first ring. "Oh, thank God," she breathes. "I've been trying to reach you all week." "Yeah, I noticed," I say flatly. "What's going on?" There's a pause. Then she sighs, her voice carefully crafted into something wounded. "Things have been hard. Your father hasn't been doing well. His health is declining, and we've been struggling financially. And your sister—" "Get to the point," I interrupt, already tired of the performance. She hesitates. "We need your help." There it is. The demand disguised as a request. "We were hoping you could come back for a while," she continues. "Help out around the house, take care of things. Just until we get back on our feet." "Take care of things," I echo, voice dripping with disbelief. "You mean take care of you?" Silence. Then, a careful, "Well, yes, but we're family, and family helps family." The audacity is almost impressive. I let out a slow breath, gripping my phone tightly. "You want me to drop everything?" I say, voice steady. "To take care of the same people who treated me like a servant for years? The same people who never once cared about how much they were asking of me?" "That's not fair," she snaps, a sudden bite in her tone. "We did everything for you. We raised you. You used me," I cut in coldly. "You stole my time, my energy, my childhood. You forced me to be responsible for children I didn't create, while you lived your life without consequence. And now, after everything, you still expect me to sacrifice for you." "It's not like that," she insists. But there's something hollow in her voice, because she knows. Deep down, she knows. "It was always like that," I say quietly. "You just never cared." Her silence is deafening, and for the first time I realize she is afraid, not of losing me, but of finally facing the consequences of a life spent taking without giving. "I'm not coming back," I say, finality laced in every word. "You wanted me to be independent. Congratulations, I am. And now your problems are yours to deal with." "You're being selfish," she whispers, a last desperate attempt at guilt. I almost laugh. "No," I say, "for the first time in my life, I'm just putting myself first. And you? You're finally learning what it feels like to be ignored." I hang up. The silence after I hang up is deafening. For years, my parents' voices were inescapable, commanding, demanding, suffocating. I had grown up in their world, where their needs were the center of my existence, where my time was never my own. And now, for the first time, I had done what they never expected. I said no. I don't feel guilty. I don't feel conflicted. I feel free. But I also know this isn't over, because people like my parents, people who have spent years taking without consequence, don't just accept rejection. They fight it. They manipulate. They find new ways to make you bend, to make you feel like you owe them. And I have no doubt they will try again. I don't have to wait long. The messages start rolling in almost immediately after my call with my mother. At first, she sticks to pleading. "Please, sweetheart, we just need a little help. We wouldn't ask if we weren't truly struggling. Just come home for a little while, just until things settle down." I ignore them all. Then, my father joins in. His approach is different. Colder. Less desperation. More authority. "You need to step up and take responsibility. We took care of you. Now it's your turn. Enough of this attitude. Your mother is exhausted and you're just sitting around doing nothing. Family isn't something you walk away from when it's inconvenient." That last one almost makes me laugh, because that's exactly what they did to me. Every time I begged for a break, every time I asked for even a sliver of freedom, They ignored me, tossed my exhaustion aside like it didn't matter, treated my entire childhood as if it belonged to them. And now, when I finally do the same, it's a betrayal. When neither begging nor demands work, they escalate. They start reaching out to other family members. My aunt, who always took my parents' side, sends a long-winded message about forgiveness and duty. My uncle, who never once checked in on me after I left, suddenly has advice on how holding grudges only poisons the soul. My cousins, the same ones I raised, the same ones who never had to suffer like I did, start messaging me with fake concern. Come on, we miss you. It's not the same without you. Mom and Dad are struggling. Why are you being so harsh? They're still your parents. You can't just abandon them. Abandon them. As if they hadn't abandoned me first. I delete the messages without responding. Let them talk. Let them gossip. Let them spin their narratives where I'm the villain, the ungrateful child who turned her back on her family. I don't care. I am done playing their game. The knock at my door is not a surprise. I've been waiting for it, expecting it. I take my time answering. When I finally open the door, my mother is standing there. She looks smaller than I remember. Her hair is grayer, her face thinner, and for a brief second, just a fleeting moment, I feel the familiar pull of sympathy. But then I remember everything. I remember the nights spent crying in my room because I wasn't allowed to have a childhood. The missed school trips, the canceled plans, the exhaustion so deep it felt like I would drown in it. I remember how she let it happen, how she made it happen. You didn't answer my calls, she says, as if she has the right to be offended. I lean against the doorframe, arms crossed. Didn't think there was anything left to say. Her face tightens. I know you're angry. I raise an eyebrow. Do you? She exhales sharply, her hands clenching into fists. I don't understand why you're acting like this. We're family. We always took care of each other. That nearly makes me laugh. You mean I took care of you, I correct, because that's what this is really about, isn't it? You don't miss me. You miss what I did for you. She shakes her head. That's not true. I love you. Love? I scoff. Love is not forcing your child to sacrifice everything while you live your life however you want. Love is not treating someone like a tool to be used until they have nothing left. It wasn't like that, she protests, but her voice wavers. It was exactly like that. She swallows hard. We thought we were preparing you for real life, teaching you responsibility. No, I say coldly. You were using me because it was easier than being parents. The words hit their mark. She looks away, her jaw tight. Is this really what you want? She asks after a moment. To cut us off forever? I sigh, shaking my head. I wanted a family, I say. But you never gave me one. You gave me a job, and I quit. Her breath catches. She wasn't expecting that. She thought I would cave, that she could guilt me back into my old role. But she was wrong. And now, she knows it. I step back and nod toward the door. Goodbye, Mom. She stares at me for a long time. Then, slowly, she nods. Goodbye, she says softly. And just like that, she's gone. The aftermath of saying no. Days pass. Then weeks. The calls stop. The messages fade. My parents, my extended family, even my siblings, they let me go. Not because they finally respect my boundaries, but because they finally understand that I won't break. I won't come running just because they're uncomfortable. I won't sacrifice myself to make their lives easier. And without that power over me, they have nothing. For the first time in my life, I am truly free. I live my days the way I choose. I work, I travel, I build relationships that are real. Relationships that are based on love, not obligation. Days turn into weeks. Weeks stretch into months. And with every passing moment, the silence from my parents grows deeper, heavier, more final, and I welcome it. For the first time in my life, I am free. Free from obligation, free from guilt, free from the suffocating weight of a childhood stolen from me, of a family that never saw me as a person, only a tool. At first, I waited for them to retaliate, for another wave of messages, for another guilt campaign, for one last desperate attempt to manipulate me back into my role as the free babysitter, the caretaker, the problem solver. But they don't come, because they finally understand. I am gone, and I am never coming back. I hear about them through the grapevine, through whispers and secondhand stories from people I no longer consider my own. My father's health continues to decline. His body is failing him, the years catching up in ways he never expected. My mother struggles to care for him alone, something she assumed she would never have to do, because she always had me. But I am no longer there, and she is finally learning what it means to be burdened. My siblings, the ones I raised, the ones who never once questioned the sacrifices I made, are nowhere to be found. They have their own lives now. They are out in the world, unbothered, unaffected, because they were never taught to be responsible for anyone but themselves. They were never told to give without receiving. That was a lesson meant only for me. And now my parents are drowning in their own neglect. But it is not my problem. The last message comes almost a year after I walked away. It is short, simple. A single text from my mother. "We were wrong, I'm sorry." That's it. No pleas for help, no manipulative demands, no twisting of words to make me question myself. Just an apology, years too late, hollow in its arrival. I stare at the message for a long time, not because I am tempted to respond, but because it is the only time in my entire life that she has admitted fault. And yet, even now there is something missing. There is no acknowledgement of what they took from me, no real understanding of the damage they caused. Just a vague, empty confession, one that asks for forgiveness without truly earning it. And I do not owe them that. I do not owe them anything. I delete the message without responding. And that is the last time I ever hear from them. Years pass, and with each one my life becomes my own. I travel. I build relationships that are equal, ones that are rooted in love and respect, not obligation and expectation. I chase the dreams I was once forced to set aside, and I never, not once, look back. Because I do not need them. I was always stronger than they thought,